Hello, Trailblazers, and welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Journey. Today, my guest is Marc Mawhinney. Is that how you say your last name, Marc?
You nailed it.
Awesome. Okay. I hate, usually I ask the guests before they come on about their last name because I don't want to butcher it. So I'm glad I didn't this time.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
harder than your last name. I admit it's not exactly Miller or anything like that. Mawhinney's a weird one.
Marc is a coach at Natural Born Coaches and runs one of the best groups for coaches on Facebook, and it's called the Coaching Jungle. I think there are approximately almost 22,000 people in your group right now. Is that right?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
Wow. Before we get started, I do have a question about that group that I didn't send you. How long did it take you when did you get that group started?
September 2015.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a little over 6 years.
It's been growing steady. Wow. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to condense yourself or your life into a 30-second soundbite. So basically, I'm in Atlantic, Canada. I'm in New Brunswick, and I've been online coaching since 2014. My background's in real estate. I did that for about a decade prior to jumping online for coaching. And yeah, my whole business is helping coaches get clients without paid ads, so organically.
Nice. We could go down the rabbit hole of real estate, but we won't because I have a bunch of friends in that space as well. But we'll save that for another time.
No worries.
So just some getting to know you questions to get started. I know one thing from your profile that you recently got engaged. Is that right?
Yeah, we got engaged back in August.
Nice.
Yep.
So what is your favorite thing about your fiance?
Boys, it's we only have a certain amount of time, so I'll keep this brief as well. I'd say probably, I mean, she's a great person. She's not a mean bone in her body, just very kind to everyone. And but I'd say her confidence, she's very confident. She's younger than me, so me, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. She makes me feel younger,
Nice.
and stuff like that. But yeah, there's too much to fit into a short answer. We get along great. We clicked right away once we met. It was almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
Awesome. So finish this sentence. If I had not gotten into coaching, I would be.
Boys, if I wasn't coaching, God only knows, because I got into coaching after that real estate business had a really messy closure, and everything collapsed. So I was helped back to my feet by several coaches, and that's how I found out about coaching. Going back further, if I was going with childhood dreams and getting into, sort of that dream thing, I never wanted to be like an astronaut or anything like that, but it was either playing shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays,
Nice.
a treasure hunter, or a magician were kind of those dream ones. So like an Indiana Jones type thing was always one of the big ones for that. So
that'd be awesome to be a treasure hunter.
I think so. It'd be a lot of fun. We're near Oak Island. A lot of the people, you may have heard of it down your way, but it's in Nova Scotia, which is our neighboring province here in Atlantic, Canada. So a lot of people, if they don't know about Oak Island, check it out because it's a really cool story. But yeah, treasure hunting would be pretty cool.
Nice. So describe what a perfect day would look like to you.
Boys, perfect day. Bob Dylan has a quote for his definition of success, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically success is getting up in the morning, going to bed at night, and doing what you want to do in between. So I always think of that. My perfect day, first off, I'm all about creating. So I do a lot with content creation and stuff like that. And I feel like I have to be growing every day, whether it be reading, journaling, creating, and all that stuff. I need to have room to create. So my ideal day isn't being on 10 different Zoom calls and things a day, back like some people brag about, oh, look how full my calendar is or whatever. Right. I think you need room to breathe and to create and to think and all that stuff. So perfect days, I'm an early riser, so it wouldn't be sleeping in. I like getting up early. I always read something good. I just finished reading Amy Hardison's book about Steve Hardison, her husband, The Ultimate Coach. It's a great book. So reading a good book like that in the morning to get the juices flowing, journaling and stuff like that. I like my mornings to be creation time. And then afternoon, I'm usually doing my calls or interviews like this. And then evenings, I've been doing much better, having me time, Marc time, where I'm not feeling like I have to work till midnight, with the laptop open and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, that's kind of my perfect day, where it's work and play, but not at the same time. When you're working, you're working. When you're playing, you're playing.
Yeah, I myself, it's one of those things where I love what I do so much that it doesn't feel like I'm working sometimes. Yeah. So my wife has to say, "You're still working." Oh, I am. Oh, right. Okay.
It's tough because people say, how many hours a week do you work? And you probably run into this too, Doug, where I can't quantify how many hours because of that reason.
Mhm.
One thing that has helped, I've been doing a lot in the last year, is keeping my work confined to the office instead of
Mhm.
bringing the laptop up to different rooms. And then you're kind of working, you're kind of hanging out with family and all that
Mhm.
stuff. It's no, when I'm at the desk, I'm working. But when I'm in the living room, I'm with the family and I'm not glued to the screen or whatever. I think mentally that really helps to have your workstation and your family or relaxation stations.
Totally agree. And I myself just need to do a better job of that. So now let's get into your entrepreneur journey itself. So how did you get started? And what did you do? You talked about real estate a little bit. So just dive into that a little bit before you start coaching.
Yeah, so basically, got jumped into real estate at the tail end just before I graduated university. So I was 21. I looked probably 15. You know, I looked really young. I don't have that problem anymore. I got lots of gray beard and gray hair. But yeah, I got started at 21 and no money, no contacts, student loans. Just wasn't exactly an ideal starting place. But I worked hard and I was able to build up my real estate business throughout my 20s. So in almost a decade, build it up to about my own company, about 100 agents and employees working for me. I actually had sister companies in there, and everything's just hockey stick growth every year. And I always say, and I don't get me wrong, I worked hard, but I thought, wow, this success thing's easy. By the time I'm
Mhm.
in my 40s, I'll have a private island, jets, and all this other stuff. Then 2009 hit and everything collapsed, and it was a real messy business closure. And I actually went through two business closures in '09 and 2012. So that got real estate out of my system. I said, you know what, I'm just not having fun with this anymore, and I need a new direction. And I went. So there's a dark period there for a few years, and that's how I got introduced to coaching. Where, like I mentioned before, I worked with several coaches and mentors, I would say, for another one, and that's how I learned about this world. And I said, you know what, this would be a lot of fun, and probably a lot more fun than real estate. I'm going to do this, and that was back about 8 years ago, or almost 8 years ago.
Nice. So I didn't know that. So Canada went through a similar crash that the United States did, I guess, back when everybody was getting loans for
Yeah.
more than they could afford, right?
Yeah, there's a saying of here in Canada, we say that whenever the United States sneezes, Canada catches a cold. Um, Nowadays might be COVID, not cold. So I picked the wrong time to go into aggressive
Mm,
growth mode because I was following, the old adage, when everybody's fearful, you're aggressive. When
mm,
everyone's aggressive, you're a little more conservative. I said, okay, well, everyone's pulling back. Now's a great time. And, I grew. I say I grew too big too fast, but it was really 10 years in the making. It wasn't like I just rolled out of bed and just decided to do it. But I made a lot of mistakes with it being too aggressive where I should have pulled back. Because I'm the type that I'm kind of like all in, like, same thing with poker. I don't like playing if I tight and just playing little pots or whatever. I like, kind of really having fun and, taking risks. And that's how my business grew in real estate so quickly when I was in my 20s and so consistently. But unfortunately, I ran out of luck. I hit a 7-2 offsuit if you're a poker fan, in there at the wrong time when you go all in, and that's not good. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. But at the end of the day, I can look back and say, not glad how it happened, but I'm glad that it happened, because I always said I don't want to be 60, 70, 80 years old out selling real estate and doing stuff like that. So what I love with this business is I can work with people not just in my local sandbox, a small city and
mhm.
small province in Canada. I'm connected with people like you in South Carolina. 90% of my business is in the States. The rest of it's in the UK, a little bit in Canada, Australia, worked with. So that's why I love we're not restricted here
Yeah,
online.
yeah, I love that. You had mentioned risk a little bit, and I think as entrepreneurs, you have to be willing to take some risk. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to limit your growth.
Yeah, and I don't want to discourage people. Like a lot of people, if they go bust or belly up, they pull back and say, "Okay, I'll get a job, and I'm never going to try that again." And that just wasn't me. So I like to think I take smarter risks now.
Mhm.
The challenge for us entrepreneurs is we feel like we're invincible
Mhm.
often. We've got the post with the kitten hanging on, hang in there, and we think
Mhm.
like 3 feet from confidence. But when sometimes you have to quit, and I should have quit
Yeah.
earlier. Really would have been a lot less messy. So you learn the lessons from it. You can't keep looking back in the past or whatever. But yeah, I definitely would change how I did things. But I'm not. Um, regretting being out of real estate. For me, it just wasn't fun anymore. So.
Nice. So that'll lead right into this next question. What is one thing you learned the hard way on your entrepreneurial journey?
Just probably to be patient. I'm not the most patient guy in the world. I want everything now, and doesn't always work like that. So that's what I find in the coaching was in the first month and hardly working. They want all the, working on the beach or by the pool and working an hour a week and stuff. And it just doesn't happen like that. So I learned the need to be patient, not too patient. You don't want to take 20 years to build something, but you do have to go through certain stages with it and not be in too much of a rush at times. So know when to put the foot on the gas and the foot on the brake.
Very, very good. So what do you feel has been your greatest success up to this point?
I'd say for me, bouncing back from that business closure was probably a big one, because a lot of people thought, oh, he's finished. Like I had my local media was, really doing a number on me. God, if I got a parking ticket, it would be front page news, and I was Hitler, right? I'm in a part of the world that might be a little different than your neck of the woods and stuff, but here I find that whenever a business closes, I won't say it's anti-entrepreneurial, but there is a lot of that feeling here where, oh, they must did on purpose, and that evil business owner closed down and everyone's out of work. And they ignore that, oh, well, the business owner probably didn't do that on purpose because it's not a lot of fun. And they're not in a great position either with it. So I find in my part of the world it's getting better, but we have a very negative attitude towards entrepreneurs. And I see it all the time whenever there's a business closure. It just happened recently where a restaurant closed here in my neck of the woods. And I was reading the comments online, and people were just bashing the owners of the restaurant, like, oh yeah, you got COVID funds and now you're closing down, you piece of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I would not want to be a restaurant owner right now. Like
Right.
with COVID times where government can shut you down or do whatever they have you under their thumb. But that's just the mentality that's here. So it's a little bit of a rant.
Yeah. I always say, I was talking with a friend the other day, is you got to put yourself in that person's shoes, right? A lot of entrepreneurs get advice from people that aren't entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They say, don't do that, but you've never done it. So
Yeah.
why are you giving me advice?
I would rather go for it and fail, and then come back and take the lessons learned to do it than to just sit at the sidelines and snipe at the people who are actually taking those risks. And so many people are, wherever you're at, it's not my part of the world or just your part of the world, it's everywhere really. It's so easy to be the critic, on the side. People have never even run a lemonade stand and they're criticizing entrepreneurs and stuff, but they've never had the guts to do it. So
and even like professional sports, you have people yelling at the screen at somebody that didn't do something right. You're not as good as that guy as, in your sports. So anyway,
I saw a funny video or TikTok during the last Olympics with somebody was doing a dive or whatever with the Olympic team, and they didn't have a very good landing or whatever, and the guy on the couch had like this big like beer gut, and he had chips and dip and beer, and he's like, oh, friggin' loser, stuff in his face. And that's just, I thought that sums things up perfectly right there, the armchair critics.
Yep. So I want to get into your expertise a little bit. Since you have worked with coaches for so long, what mistakes do you feel most coaches make starting out?
Boys, there's a lot that come to mind. I mean, often they're too general. You've seen this too, I'm sure, with well-meaning, but they want to help every single person that's out there, and it's very fuzzy. They don't have a real focus on or niche. We hear that word a lot. So that's one big issue. I touched on it earlier. They're impatient, so they want to shortcut things. They don't want to actually put the work into it. I just finished releasing an issue of I have a print newsletter, and it was all around content creation. So I basically filled it up with showing how I create my content and stuff. But I was very clear on there that this is not a 5-minute a week type thing. You got to roll up your sleeves and you have to do the work. And I feel like so many coaches want to shortcut it, or some of them want to hire people to create their content, which I'm really not a fan of, because I think it should be in your own voice, and it just comes across as fake and not authentic. So those would be a couple of the big issues that I'm seeing.
I would agree with you on the content piece, and that's something we always tell our clients. You got to. We'll help you. We'll help you strategize about your content, but we're not going to create your content for you because you're right. It has to be in your voice. It's not going to come across as authentic if it's not. It's not them.
Yeah,
So,
one of the things that helped me back when I started coaching, I didn't have a big war chest to throw into like tons of ads and hiring copywriters and all this other stuff. So I had to create it all myself. And at the time I was, kind of pissed off because I'm like, oh man, I wish I had the kind of resources I had back in real estate. And, I wish I could throw 30,000 to, this copywriter and all this money to this funnel and paid ads and everything. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because it forced me to get really good at creating content where I had to create so much of it. So as of today, I started doing daily emails a few years into my coaching career. So it's been since 2016. I haven't missed a day of emails in that time. So there's over 2,000 days, 750 episodes roughly of my podcast have been released, probably 10,000 social media posts. So when you do that much, I'm not saying I'm special, but I can create content quickly because I've done it so often.
mm-hmm.
And then you can also cheat a bit and go back to your old content,
Mm-hmm.
repackage it, right? You can take some of a post or an email that you did back 5 years ago, and then you put it out again. I've never had anyone say, wait a minute, Marc, you posted that back in 2014 and how dare you post that now?
You always have new people coming on into your audience too that didn't experience that. And I can attest to the emails because I'm on your email list. I do have to check out your podcast though, but I really enjoy your emails that you send.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So the coaching space has been a big influx in recent years. What's your advice for coaches to stand out from their competition?
Oh, boys. Well, I think this is going to be true even more so 2022, 2023, and so on, is you really have to, I know it sounds like a buzzword or cliche to say be yourself, be authentic, but you can't sound like all the others. Like, you're going to have to put your own spin on it. So, you've been on my list, so you've seen some of the email stuff like that. Like, I have a certain language I use with it. I've got a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. My fiance would probably say it can be lame, dad jokes and all that stuff. But I do things like I talk about pop culture, stuff like that. People know certain things about me. What you don't want to do is, I discovered this back in 2016. Netflix had released a Tony Robbins documentary, I'm Not Your Guru. I don't know if you saw that one. But
I saw the title. I never
Tony
did
was
watch
cursing like, yeah. Well, if you ever watch it, you can do a drinking game. Every time Tony drops the F-bomb, you take a shot. You'll be on your ass in about 5 minutes. Because I don't know what was going on. I was like, geez, he said, no, I'm not don't get me wrong, I have salty language or whatever, but I'm just kind of like, there's an awful lot of F-bombs here. What's going on? Is he trying to break a world record? But what I noticed in the weeks after that, looking through my social media and stuff, I have a lot of coaches on there, and coaches who I had never seen swear before or anything, or like going really over the top with, F this and F that, and go for your effing dreams, or you're an effing loser, and go F. And it was just like came across as really fake and phony. Well, of course, they saw Tony Robbins doing that. They watched the documentary maybe a few times, and hey, he's Tony Robbins. He can do whatever he wants. I'm not saying don't swear. If you swear in your quote real life and you want to swear in your content and stuff, go for it if that's you. But if you're not that type of person, away from the camera, away from the laptop, don't try to be someone that you're not when you go in front. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I'll say you've seen my emails, I might say bull crap or, something like that. And I drop plenty of F-bombs away from, my podcast stuff, but you're not going to turn on my podcast or Facebook post or anything and see me just F this and F that and stuff. It's just not my style. If I stub my toe, you'll hear me say it, but not my content. So that's why I'd say, just, you got to really be yourself and let your personality shine through your content.
Nice. I'm a huge proponent of developing connections and relationships. Other than knowing you probably had a great story to tell and could deliver a ton of value to my audience, one of the reasons I reach out to you is to come on my podcast is because I know that you also build connections and relationships. Do you feel some coaches struggle with that?
Yeah, they do. There's probably two camps. One that never reach out to people or put themselves out there because they don't want to come across as, they might think I'm salesy or trying to sell them something or whatever. But the flip side of it are the coaches who copy and paste 1,000 direct messages a day. And there's those ones drive me nuts too. I get lots of those in my inbox. I'm sure you do too. So a good example of someone who did it the right way, a coach reached out to me last year, didn't know him, but he said, Marc, I see that you go on a lot of podcasts as a guest. I noticed you posting some of that stuff. I've been on these shows here in the last couple months. He gave a list of some, and he said, if you want to go on any of those shows, I'd love to introduce you to the host, just let me know. And that's all he said. He wasn't asking for anything in return. And I said, geez, that's really nice and unexpected, because you don't see that a lot online nowadays. And so I gave him, a couple of names, said, yeah, I'd love to be introduced to these few people. And then I end up returning the favor there, because I could tell his heart was in the right place. And, there's a whole, you want to reciprocate and pay back the favor. So that's a great way to do it, because he's playing the long game. I've got a few people on my social media. Davey Williams comes to mind. I don't know if you've bumped into Davey in your journeys, but Davey's always sharing my stuff. Like, I felt guilty. I sent him a couple messages with that, and geez, thanks, Davey. Like, do you want me to share anything? Because you don't have to share all this stuff. And then I end up having him on my show, because I said, look, that's the least I could do. Come on. And, you've done so much sharing my stuff without asking for anything in return. Robert Garcia, that's another one, Chef Magazine. Robert's always doing stuff there. So I'm a big fan of Rob and Davey's approach, how they handle it.
Nice. So I know you have the newsletter that I've seen you promoted in your emails. What else do you have going on, and how can people find out more about you?
So I mean, the best place is to pop over naturalborncoaches.com. That'll show what I'm up to with my programs and all that. The Coaching Jungle group, which you mentioned, that's at coachingjungle.com as well. The newsletter, if anyone's interested, I don't know, I have a copy somewhere. It's in a whole pile of paper, so I'm not gonna. Here it is here. The newsletter is at secretcoachclub.com, and it's a print newsletter. A lot of people are surprised by that. They're like, oh, where's the PDF of it? No, it's old school. It's stone tablets, and they get dinosaurs to carry it around the world to subscribers. But yeah, that's secretcoachclub.com.
Nice. And it's just like reading a book. I'd rather read a physical book, than read it on a tablet, because I feel like I just get more out of it. Maybe that's just me, but
no, I'm the same way. It sinks in a lot more. So I subscribe to a few ink and paper newsletters, and that's why I started this one back in 2017, because I thought, wow, I'd love to do this, but I don't want to do something digital that gets lost on someone's laptop and collects virtual dust. I want something that's sitting on their desk, and they're highlighting it, they're marking up with pen, they're going back to it, and so on. And I don't know, I'm old school that way. I've got Kindle, I read on the iPad, stuff like that, but I prefer a good old-fashioned book.
Me too. Well, thank you, Marc, for being on the entrepreneur journey. Any parting words for our audience?
No, enjoy the journey, I guess, with the title of the show. It's a lot of entrepreneurs don't stop to actually step back and smell the roses. They're just so busy. And I've suffered from that in the past too, as an admitted workaholic. So enjoy the journey, because one day it's going to be over and you wish you would have. So
thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.